and I literally stopped eating because I'm just in shock. And like, I didn't actively tear up or cry, but I
It
did
just
just
like
it
right in the
sat
heart
on my chest. Yeah, it sat on my chest.
for the heart, like more hardcore like lore fans. I think we are getting to that point now with Dave where he will flesh it out enough that we all feel a satisfied level of detail has been given to us to explain it.
I didn't realize in the comics quite how close her and Logan were.
Yeah, I didn't know any of that.
If you design a game a certain way with mechanics in mind, and you decide when the player is realistically going to be able to unlock their mechanics and how much grinding is needed, whatever, I don't mind you also charging to just get to that part of the games quicker in a single player game.
I would be shocked that Warner Brothers don't now come up with an actual pitch for this.
Hello, and welcome back to episode 110 of Cutscene Convos. We're getting up here in some big boy numbers now.
We are.
And to go along with our big boy numbers, we've got big boy episodes. This week, we've got a character profile on Jubilee. We've got The Bad Batch episode 12. We've got X-Men 97 episode 5. Josh is back again with his third monthly gaming update.
Yes, he is.
We've got a very spicy Nerd News Network with some interesting news. But for all that good stuff, Horizontal, how's your week been?
The first part of, since last Thursday when we recorded, I'd say the first half, very tiring. If you recall, my nephew was here, who is 4. He did not stop wanting uncle's attention.
It's almost like children have lots of energy or something.
Yeah. Honestly, obviously my parents looked after him for the whole week, and obviously I probably did, like, I was here around for like half of it, but even I was knackered after like half a week. I was pretty tired after the weekend.
So no baby Camerons on the horizon then, no?
Oh no. It definitely made me realise I am not anywhere near ready to have a kid or something. I'm happy just being uncle at the moment because I can just hand them back. But yeah, that was that. And then this week has been a lot more chill. I've just been kind of playing around doing creative stuff, experimenting, learning new techniques, having fun doing these little cartoony illustration characters and learning how to do all that.
I've been greatly enjoying your character creations.
It has been
them quite a bit.
Fun, and because I definitely was in a bit of a creative, in a bit of a rut, especially with like making creative content. Of like, I have like an idea, but I just wasn't interested in doing it. And then this is something that suddenly I'm like, oh, this is a cool idea. I make it straight away, and I kind of just going with it for this week. And then I've been doing sim racing, which I talk about in the gaming section later, and what else? Just gaming with the boys. Been a bit more of a chill week. But I've actually got a wedding this weekend, so
fun.
Busy weekend coming up. How's your week been?
Let's see. So last Thursday, we didn't mention it, but my grandmother had quite a nasty fall and broke her hip. So she's had her surgery now. She's had a partial hip replacement. They've removed the top of her femur and replaced it with a metal ting.
Metal ting.
The socket is as it was, which is why it's only a partial hip replacement.
Okay.
I didn't realise after having a hip replacement, you don't get to rest.
No.
They get you up and walking the next day. Which, when I got told why, I'm like, yes, that does make sense. You can't let the hip go stiff. You've got to keep it moving. Mm-hmm. But like, if you think back to like any time like people have any other kind of surgery, normally it's like, do not leave bed for 2 weeks. So in my head, I was just like, I assume that's what it'll be for a hip replacement from a frail old person. And they're like, no, we want them running. Get them laps now, go.
Yeah. See, my granddad had both his hips done. And I remember from that, it's like, within a week, like within a day, they'd get him up. A couple of days, 2-3 days, they had him home, and he's like, they want him walking again.
Yeah. So hopefully she'll be going into rehab. Not for a hip, for a drug addiction. That's a terrible joke. I'm sorry.
That was so left field.
That was such an intrusive thought moment. I apologize. No, going into rehab for her hip. Hopefully in the next couple of days, and that's like a 2.5-week course. And then she'll be good to come home, which
drive.
is all good. But other than that, my week has been pretty chill. So let's get into our character profile.
Yes, let's.
This week's character profile is on the ever bubbly Jubilee. Jubilee, aka Jubilation Lee, first appeared in Uncanny X-Men number 244 in January 1989. Never before has a mutant's powers been such an extension of the mutant's personality, like in the case of Jubilee. The bright, playful young mutant's power to generate energy blasts, or fireworks as she calls them, perfectly encapsulates her bright, warm, and powerful personality. Jubilee was the daughter of 2 immigrants from Hong Kong. She was being afforded a very comfortable lifestyle in Beverly Hills, where she lived and went to private school. However, her life would begin to change when her powers manifested. After getting in trouble at the local mall, she began running away from security. However, due to the stress of the situations, her powers manifested on the spot and she popped off a firework which temporarily blinded the guards and masked her escape. From this moment, she tried very hard to control her powers and hide her powers from her parents. However, tragedy struck one night when her parents were killed in a car accident. As a result of this, Jubilee was sent to an orphanage. However, this orphanage didn't suit Jubilee, so she ran away and began hiding and living in shopping malls in Hollywood. Having got wind of the young mutant living in the mall security hired a group of mutant hunters to capture Jubilee. She fought valiantly against them, but was caught regardless. Lucky for her, she was saved by some of the X-Men who happened to be shopping in the mall at the time. Jubilee would follow these mysterious heroes back through a portal to their base, which at the time was in Australia. She would hide in their base for a long time, stealing food and clothing when she could. Eventually, the enemy the X-Men had fighting attacked, and while everyone else fled, Wolverine was left and captured. He was in bad shape and was being hung from a cross. Jubilee helped him down and helped him recover. When they finally arrived back to Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters, she had already developed a strong relationship with Wolverine. This would grow as he provided her with a parental figure she was missing, and she provided him with the joy of fatherhood, whether he realised that was what the joy was or not. Jubilee would go on to become a beloved part of the X family. However, she wasn't often allowed out on missions due to her age, comparatively to that of the rest of the team. And everyone's protective feelings towards her as a daughter/little sister figure. However, she would regularly help out when given the chance, and often worked closely with Wolverine almost as a sidekick. As she grew up, she became a key leader and influencer of the next generation of X-Men. Despite being a similar age to them, she naturally accrued so much more knowledge due to her time spent with the previous X-Men teams. In more recent times, she's adopted a baby boy of her own, offering him the love and support of a parent she lacked for large parts of her life. And she's been living on Krakoa, where she's part of the Excalibur team, a team of mutants who work largely as a diplomatic team of mutants to help other nations where they could, particularly in Europe. However, with the Krakoan age appearing to be ending, who knows what's next for Jubilee. That is Jubilee. Everyone will be laughing, I'm sure, at her real name being Jubilation Lee.
Yep.
So I'm not sure if you're aware of this, sorry. Black Bolt. Do you know what his name is?
No.
Would you like to know what his name is?
It's obviously going to be just 2 extended versions of those words or something.
It is Blackgar Boltagon.
Why do I feel like the writers just got like, well, this is what we want his superhero name to be.
Yeah.
Let's just make some weird extension of this.
What I will say is, Jubilation Lee, I don't think is as ridiculous.
No,
Having
it's
known
not.
that she's got Asian parents, Lee being a last name isn't unheard of.
Mhm.
Jubilation, like it's
No.
not a crazy name.
No. Yeah, it was.
But I will say Jubilee sounds more like a real name to me.
Yeah.
Like maybe I'm just too like comic book minded and I'm like really used to her name. But if someone said, "Hi, this is my friend Jubilee," I don't think I'd be like, "Oh, that's a crazy name." I feel like I'd just be like, "Oh, that's a bit niche, maybe."
Yeah, no, it's normal enough.
Very, very cool character. I didn't realize in the comics quite how close her and Logan were.
Yeah, I didn't know any of that.
Obviously in like the X-Men cartoon, X-Men '97, they clearly have quite a close relationship, and X-Men's quite and Wolverine's quite protective of her. But I wouldn't have necessarily gone as far as to say it was almost a father-daughter relationship. But in the comics, you have a lot more time to flesh out them relationships.
You do.
So it does make sense. But there we
Very
go. That
cool.
is Jubilee. Bad Batch.
Yes.
This season has been a good batch of episodes.
See what you did there.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It was, I would say, what we expected to happen this episode.
Yeah.
It kind of answered stuff that we'd already figured out, I feel. It kind of just actually said what we've kind of been figuring out and kind of how we've been trying to word our thoughts. They kind of just straight up said, yeah, this is why Omega is important. Which I think is good. It helps clear up and lays the facts out so people can't be like questionable of stuff, especially because we know they are trying to fix something.
Yeah.
I kind of want to say it felt a little bit fillery.
I'll be honest,
not.
I'm a bit back and forth on that. I get exactly why you think that. I think it feels less fillery than the other one that we said felt like a filler episode.
Yeah.
It all made sense as to why it had to happen. The only question would be is, did we need to see it? And I think they provided enough action for it to make sense for us to see it. And also the fact that I forget his name, the Admiral or the ex-Admiral.
Oh. It's gone out of my head now. Yeah. The prisoner.
It also explained it, like I think we almost needed to see it for the reveal of him going, no one knows where Tantus is, but I think I have a way around that. If it was just going to be a case of, oh, we need to find out the location, they probably could have just not bothered with it. But the extra bit of action, getting feedback in the mix, and the, oh no one knows the location of Tantus is all quite relevant information.
Yeah.
And I'm always more of a fan of show, don't tell. So don't just tell us that they went and broke into this prison and got the information.
Yeah.
Let us see it.
Yeah, and I think I do have to like try and remind myself that we obviously each week we're breaking these episodes down and we're trying to figure out what's actually going on. A lot of people might not have quite understood why Omega is important yet. And knowing that Dave is fixing the infamous line of Palpatine returned, somehow, he obviously at certain points needs to just lay it out clearly so no one's then able to question it in the future. So I think explaining that also allowed us to see Emery kind of wavering a little still, especially once Omega was there.
Come back to us.
Yeah, she's like clearly questioning. Oh, I think she obviously doesn't want anything to happen to Omega because
I don't know
she's
if it's happened to any of them kids.
yeah. Well, that's so. I think she's gonna play a part in it somehow. Wouldn't surprise me if she frees them, but dies for it.
Yeah.
And then yeah, the whole prison break. The prison break itself was very cool. I very much enjoyed that. I loved the bit where Crosshair was like, "Wrecker, do you remember Plan 55?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, Plan 55. I remember that one." On you. And it's like you can just see it because obviously we know he's the dumber one, and it's
Yeah.
like you just imagine him like scrolling through all the different plans in his head, and it
Well,
just takes time to get to 55.
I think it's also like they haven't been using them. So
Yeah,
I think
true.
I think part of him was like a kid leaving school. Oh, I've done my last biology exam and I'm going to go do finance. I can forget
Yeah, yeah,
that the nucleus is the brain of a cell.
yeah.
And that was, and Rekka was just like, oh my god, I used to study so hard, but I can't remember what 55 is. Was that? Yeah, I know, I remember. He's probably
It,
done the wrong thing.
it's probably also you got to think some of the plans obviously will be on to do with certain members, and Crosshair's not been with them for so long. They're probably like, oh,
Yeah,
well, we haven't needed to do any of the Crosshair
exactly.
plans. But I thought that was
I
just very
also
funny.
I also like the idea that for all of their plans, Rekka's job is just run in there and shoot something.
Yeah, or tackle
That's my
something,
personal
or
head canon. Yeah.
it's like,
What I will say is
mhm,
the pessimist that I am about
mm,
our character's ability to survive.
mm,
When Rekka was stuck on the top of the prison
mm,
convoy and they
mm.
were waiting for the job,
I
I'm
was like, oh
sat
my
there
god,
and
it's
in my
tech
head I'm
again.
like, in my head I'm going, I don't want to be right. I don't want to be right like this. I know I've said Rekka's in danger. I don't want to be right like this. Not like this.
You saying it the past couple of weeks made that word. Same for me. I was like, Rekka's not gonna be able to jump. And I was like, oh no, they're gonna do a fucking tech on us again.
We're just gonna slowly
No.
lose the crew.
And then yeah, he makes the jump just. I think they're playing with us, like they're teeing us up for something's gonna happen to Rekka, and I'm not
I
ready
think
for
they're
that.
trying to. I think there's a little bit of a desensitization to dire situations, so that when a dire situation doesn't go our way, it hits harder.
Mm,
Speaking of hitting harder, Crosshair in this episode I found really interesting with the reveal of I didn't really want to go back to Tantis, but I
mm,
think I know a way we can get back. And it shows, I think, two main things about Crosshair.
mm-hmm.
He is nowhere near as selfish as he once was,
No,
because despite his feelings about going back to Tantis, he's like, no, we've got to go help Omega,
it's
which
just yeah,
Crosshair in season one would not have felt that way.
no,
But also it shows how traumatized he is by
mm.
his experience on Tantis, that he did not want to mention that he knew a way to get there up until it was literally a life or death situation for Omega.
Yeah, I agree. We saw this him kind of. It's clearly he hid it because there's trauma there, and we were starting to understand that something had gone on. That like obviously that's where his handshakes were coming from. I also noticed in this episode his hand was shaking way more, and also especially when he was like talking about going back to Tantis, which is playing on that thing of like clearly he's got trauma from there, and it's like
Absolutely.
yeah, like you say, he's definitely grown because Crosshair in season one wouldn't have put Omega first,
Absolutely not.
but now it's the last resort of any possible way. Or not like there potentially could be other ways, but because there is now a time limit on it and there is a urgency to get to Tantis, he's willing to reveal that. I think there's definitely going to be something when they arrive back at Tantis, which is like some mental conflict Crosshair's going to have to go through. Whether him seeing Dr. Hemlock again triggers like some PTSD thing, or like he's gonna have some struggle at like a very key moment when he needs to not be because
Yeah,
of where
wouldn't
he
surprise me.
is. I think they're definitely leaning up to something like that happening.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all. I think you're probably spot on with that.
I still am not confident Omega's surviving this.
No, I'm really not.
Now
I
that,
can see her sacrificing herself to get them kids out alive.
and that's why they then need to find someone. Well, no, actually, see, here's my, right, I've got two theories. I think either she escapes and disappears into the wind because they figure out what's going on and they know that she has to like, no matter what's going on in the world, she cannot come out of hiding because they understand like she understands that's a bigger consequence.
Oh, interesting.
Or it's a case of like, because I'm trying to also think, why would they need Grogu many years later? Because
For the high M count, I assumed.
which to blend with Omega's blood. So does it mean that they get a bunch of samples out of Omega to be using, so there's a very limited supply, and then they're trying to then replicate that in the future with Grogu? Or maybe they find these other Force users, they can replicate it, but they can't, it doesn't work with Palpatine, they need something else. There's obviously something there, like, but I think you could be right in that she sacrifices herself to get all the clones and the kids out of Tantis. Maybe Hemlock, like she gets stuck with Hemlock, but it means everyone else can escape.
It's so interesting knowing that Project Necromancer ends up being a success.
That, yeah.
Trying to work out how they're going to surprise us, but knowing they have to succeed at the same time.
This is the thing. We know the end goal, like we know the end result. We know what happens. We've all unfortunately seen the sequels. And we know about Grogu and Mando and how he's linked to it. So it's like, but we don't know how it all joins together, and trying to figure that out like you say, has been very interesting, because we're essentially trying to play like chase with Dave here, because Dave knows it all.
Do you know what it is? It's do you remember that concept film that Netflix did, where it was a bank heist, but there was like 6 parts, but they were all just from a different point of view?
No, I don't remember that.
They did. I don't think it was in English, which I think is why I didn't watch it. Not that I'm against foreign film; it just takes too much brain power. But basically, the whole idea was, I think there were 6 colors:
right,
white, pink, blue, red, and it was the people taking part of the heist. It was like Mr. White, Mr. Red, Mrs. Pink, and the whole idea was you watched the entire bank robbery, the build up and the post bank robbery, but each episode was from a different person's point of view, and every single point of view gives you a different idea of what happened, and it's only by seeing all of it that you understand the full story. It's kind of like that with Project Necromancer. We know how it ends, we know parts of it, but it's only once all of this stuff is finished that we can actually see how it happened. Because right now, we're like, oh, surely they must get what they need from Omega because they need Grogu in the future. But actually, there's 25 years of time there. Like, if they're working on this round the clock for 25 years, they might find another way to replicate M count.
Well, that's the thing. We don't know if this, like, something goes really wrong at the end of this and it kind of goes dark for a bit. And that's why we didn't hear anything about it in the original trilogy or got wind. Obviously, it's kind of it didn't exist when those films were made, but we'll overlook that. But yeah, then obviously the stuff that's happened in Mando, with like Moff Gideon doing his own clones and clearly not kind of sticking to what Project Necromancy should be, but maybe he discovered it and reignited it or brought it back. Who, like, there's obviously, it goes dark and comes back up, and then it's filling those gaps. But I do think, like you say, when we get to the end of all this and we've had like the Mando film, it will all make sense. I do believe Dave will actually fix this issue that people have had. As wild of a sentence that is to say after all these years.
I don't think anyone's going to accept it as fixed who doesn't already accept it as fixed, if that makes sense. I think, although the line sounds silly, I think at this point it's already fixed.
Yes, I would agree.
They've shown us enough stuff to show that, like, oh yeah, the Empire was working on this, and guess what? Some random pilot 20 years after the fall of the Empire didn't know this top secret project was happening.
Yeah.
So what else is he going to say other than, yeah, Palpatine's back somehow? I don't fucking know. Like, it's
no.
You got to use context
I
a
agree.
bit, people.
I agree. I do think.
Yes, I do think he's going to flesh it out enough where it feels actually like decent writing rather than confusing.
I think I agree with you. It's past the point now of like a general Star Wars fan being like, oh, okay, I can see how we got to that point. Like there was a secret project called Necromancy where they were cloning Force sensitive people. You can see how that would eventually lead to Palpatine making a clone of himself.
Mm-hmm.
For the more hardcore like lore fans, I think we are getting to that point now with Dave where he will flesh it out enough that we all feel a satisfied level of detail has been given to us to explain it.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I'm very excited for the end of this season, but I'm going to be very sad for the end of this season.
That is, I think, completely fair. On to some more sad stuff.
Yes.
X-Men 97.
What an episode.
I'm going to sound like a melodramatic fuck.
Okay.
Oh, that probably needs to be bleeped out because it's right at the beginning of the segment, but whatever. I was almost in tears. I don't know how, but the animation and the voice acting of the attack on Genosha literally had me. I was eating my dinner at the time because obviously a lot of this stuff comes out on Wednesdays. I watch most of it while I'm writing my notes before we record. So I'm sat here eating my dinner for the night, and I literally stopped eating because I'm just in shock. And like, I didn't actively tear up or cry, but I
it
did
just like
it
right in the
sat
heart
on my chest. Yeah, it sat on my chest, and I was just like,
it was a slow ramp up that feels like it caught us off guard. Because especially after last week's episode, which was like kind of chaotic, but it was very like playful and kind of a fun episode with the whole Jubilee stuff. And then we get this one, and it starts off with them being like off to Genosha.
Genosha's joining the UN. We're a real country.
Then it gets like
going to be equal.
Then it gets like you can tell it's like, okay, we're getting some of the political stuff coming in, and then it's like, ooh, romantic stuff. We feel for Gambit. Rogue's going all like, oh.
I always feel for Gambit.
And we're getting to see some of that side of things, and then it's like all slowly builds up to the dance, like to gala that's going on, and they get this like really like romantically intense moment of like Magneto and Rogue having this like dance, and you see Gambit get all
sick
sad.
As fuck, by the way, them flying in the air dancing like that.
And it was like the fact that I loved the gala. There's like a secondary dance stage on top of the chandelier for the people that can like fly up there and blink up there. Very mutant-esque layout. And it's all this like build up with this slight hint that kind of goes unnoticed with Madeline and Jean. Like having like a headache thing. Not quite knowing it's happening at the same time, but you kind of guess that it is.
Yeah.
And then it's like, you hear this voice saying, stop the music. And you're like, what? Don't know what's going on. Then your boy Cable hops a fence. And it's him shouting, stop the music. And the music at the party has slowly been ramping up. So it's harder to hear. And it's all this like build up to then just fucking chaos.
Yeah,
like
essentially a nuke.
And essentially a nuke goes off and everything goes wrong like in an instant, and you're just like blindsided with it. You're like, but everything was literally perfect a moment ago.
I don't want to get too sidetracked, but were you watching carefully?
At which points?
So you didn't notice a big friend in the sky?
No.
So on the night of the gala, when
Uh-huh.
it first cuts to the gala, we get fireworks going off in the sky.
Uh-huh.
The Watcher's in the sky.
Oh,
You
I
can
didn't
see his
notice that.
silhouette. You can see his
That's
silhouette on the
wild.
left-hand side of the sky, which I saw that and I'm like, is that just an Easter egg or is something about to happen?
And then you see all the different X-Men, and you're like, oh, this is just a bunch of Easter eggs. Like the amount of X-Men, and not well, X-Men and mutants that they like showed us in
Seeing
one
Kurt
episode.
was so fun. It was so cool seeing Kurt again, man. I love that man. My boy Nightcrawler.
Oh, it was Nightcrawler was so well done. But like just we got so many, and I feel like a bunch of, but obviously I don't know the comics well enough, so I imagine X-Men fans of the comics saw so many like Easter eggs of different characters.
It was really, really cool.
But yeah, it all builds up to this like right after as well, Rogue had kind of been like, I'm sorry. This isn't working.
It's really interesting. I don't know how you feel about this. I guess it's kind of always accepted that Gambit's the one who should feel hard done by that he can't have a physical relationship with Rogue. Because it's not his affliction that stops him having a physical relationship. So it should be him that feels like he's missing out. But they kind of turned that on its head, where it's like Gambit was like, I don't care. It's more than about skin. I love you. And she's like, no, but what about me? I need the ability to feel
I've never
comforted.
got to do that with anyone other than Magneto.
Yeah. Which I thought was an interesting take on it. Also, interestingly, Bo DeMaio, the writer, came back to the internet for this episode.
Oh.
And he didn't talk about why he left, and he said he wouldn't be talking about that. But he obviously he knew this episode was this week, and he was like, "I just want you guys to know this episode is how we sold them on the series."
I can see how. I can.
This was the center point of our series, and once we got them to buy into that, everything came from that. This episode is.
I can see that.
I've never seen anything in animation so beautifully heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It is so difficult in animation to do a lot of things. Animation is a beautiful medium to itself, but maybe it's because I'm cold and dead inside. As a general rule, I struggle to get emotional at an animated show because there isn't a human face there as much for me to feed into. I was genuinely choked up just because of the way they managed to put across the horror of what was happening was genuinely heartbreaking. I couldn't believe it.
Maybe it's because I've been watching lots of anime over the last more recently, but it's like anime does a really good job of breaking your heart at times. The amount of times in anime where I've got like close to tearing up because it's like hitting the heartstrings. In several different types of like even in some of the Gundam stuff, and it's like they've nailed it with this, and I do think it was like the slow build up from the beginning of the episode where like, and then it got to a point where yes there was a little breakup between Rogue and Gambit, but he was like, it's okay, I understand, and you're like, oh, this is a bit sad, and then he sees her from the bar and you think, oh, but Rose got her like cute moment, and then it's like as she denies Magneto, everything goes wrong, and you're like, it blindsides you, and they wrote it so well. Also, in that gala bit, can we talk about the absolute bar that Magneto dropped with when the UN woman comes over and she's like, most other nations don't allow a terrorist or whatever, and he's like, yeah, but so many of your nations allow leaders to become terrorists.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh shit.
They don't hire terrorists, but they let the people they've elected become a terrorist.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, that's a bit too real.
Yeah, he's cooking. Magneto is one of basically the only supervillains that you're allowed to like.
To like.
Yeah. You're allowed to get their point. In fact, you're supposed to get their point, but you're supposed to go, no, but there's got to be a better way. I get why you feel that way. I get why you feel, but we need to try and do better. That's what Magneto's supposed to bring out in you. It was so just incredibly well done. Like you say, this entire episode builds up to the crescendo. It's the hope in Genosha. Everyone like, we are all mutants. We're going to get to be free. Versus the anger of Scott at home at the fact that he has to do a press tour just to be seen like a person while grieving for his son, kind of grieving for his wife, but not really grieving for his wife, and feeling guilty about grieving for his wife. And it's just all so powerful. And it's one of them times where I sat there, I was like, am I an idiot for getting emotional over this?
No.
And I'm there and I'm like, no, art is like literally supposed to incite emotion. And any art that makes you feel emotion is like doing what it's supposed to do. I don't know of much else that can incite this kind of emotion.
This is no different than watching a film, reading a book, and like the writing is so good that it hits you for real.
Yeah. The bit that I really, really struggled with was I forget his fucking name. Leech. So Leech was a recurring character in the original series.
Yes, I remember him.
And he was obviously back in this series as well. And him being so full of hope and not worried about the Sentinels. So he's like Callisto, who he didn't know was already dead, and Magneto will protect us, I'm not worried. Yeah. Then Gambit comes to help them. He's holding on to Magneto because Magneto makes him feel safe. Magneto knows this is all about to go wrong, and he just says to him so softly, don't be afraid. That fucking killed me, man.
And because he also looks over to Rogue and Gambit, who were trying to help, and he wraps them in, and it's like he knows this is about to go wrong. And yeah, it's that point when Leech is like, oh, it's fine, the X-Men will come, and the other one's like, no, the X-Men don't care about us, as Gambit busts through a door, and you're like, yes, they're going to sell him on, like, the X-Men are good people for you. And then, yeah, it gets to that point. I will say, that final moment, also, before we even got to any of that, the bit when Cable, like, gets pulled back, and he's like, I'm sorry, Mum. And just that confirmation to her that it is Nathaniel, it's just like, oh.
now bearing in mind most of this is adapted nearly 1-to-1 from comics. I don't know about this particular, but like a lot of these storylines are.
Yeah.
Imagine, bearing in mind Cable's already a character. Imagine reading that monthly issue comic or whatever where you find out that Cable, the badass from the future, is actually Scott Summers' baby who was sent to the future. Like,
wild.
That's such a great twist. And it kind of sucks that we don't get to experience like that twist for the first time, but that's awesome.
Still, the final moment though with Gambit, like that sequence of him and Rogue going full like battle mode was so well animated and choreographed, however you want to put it. But like that whole sequence with them like working off each other, him on the bike, so well put together. He gave me huge James Bond vibes, which I loved.
If for a long time my answer to the question, what would your superpower be, has been super speed, can I change my answer to Gambit's charm? Because my man was fighting against the scariest Sentinel ever. He's come crashing through a roof to try and save civilians, and he's like, "Hello, mon amis," just chill as fuck.
Yeah,
he's just lost the love of his life to the leader of mutant country, and he's now fighting for his life, and he's still just suave as anything
in his white suit as well.
Oh, he's so like cool.
That final moment when he like absolutely launches himself to the Mega Sentinel, whatever it's meant to be called. And then obviously it stops him. And you're just like, no, he was so close.
Such a wind knocked out of your chest moment.
You were like, oh shit, he's going like full send. Like he's past that point. He's past that point of like worrying about his own life. he's going to absolutely cook here. And then it just gets stopped dead. And you're like, no, he's fucked it. He's dead. And then for him to, in his dying moment, just be like, haha, joke's on you. You shouldn't have stabbed me. I'm going to just make you into the whole thing that's going to explode. And he takes it out with him. Was like...
It's just that line might be one of the coldest bars we've heard in a while. This episode's got a few. Where you just like, the name's Gambit. Don't forget it. Fucking cold. I mean, I try not to. I need to be careful how I phrase this because a psychiatrist might kick my door down and take me away. I try not to think about my dying moments. If I would like my dying moment to be as cool as that.
I get what you mean.
When I've got to have one anyway, eventually, I'd rather it be a badass line.
I get what you mean.
But the fading to black with Rogue swaddling his dead body is heartbreaking. Disney, Marvel, all of the companies that come under that conglomerate giant have not put out anything that emotionally powerful in years.
Do you know what I feel like the last time Marvel have put anything close to that is when Iron Man died. And we all just kind of were like, shit.
That was as close as but I still don't think that was actually as powerful. I don't.
I think...
I didn't choke up at Iron Man dying.
I can't remember. I would say...
I choked up at Infinity War.
Do you know what I think the slight difference is? Obviously, the Iron Man thing was like a build-up. And it was like, it hit hard. But it obviously, like, a lot had been building up over those two films. This was in like 30 minutes. Or however long the episode was. Like, this was intense.
Well, it wasn't even 30 minutes. It was only like the last 10 minutes where it all went shit. We've had 20 minutes of, yes, mutants are finally getting treated right.
Well, yeah.
For just like the world's worst imaginable terrorist attack.
Yeah. Honestly, it was such a well-written episode. And
the horror of all of them back at the mansion, watching the news report of what's happened.
Yeah.
Just beast. This massive blue furball who is smarter and more powerful than basically most mere mortals could ever be. Just, oh my god, in a flood of tears, he can't believe what's happening. It's powerful stuff. It's so powerful. And anyone who doesn't think that's powerful writing needs to grow up.
And we have, like, I said it a bit earlier, but the writing was incredible, especially in this episode. But the animators cooked once again. Like, seeing them all using their powers again in very cool ways. And definitely new ways. And, like, getting to see, like, Nightcrawler's animation style of how he blinks around was very cool. Honestly, the big Sentinel robot, the way that was, like, nuking things, like, you could feel the hits from that. Yeah. Like,
it felt was destructive.
So well put together as just a single episode as well. Like, the show's just been so good.
My prediction.
Okay.
Now, I'm assuming this has been adapted from the comics. Because most of this X-Men animated series and X-Men 97 have been heavily inspired by the comics, which just makes sense.
Yep.
But I have not read any of these comics because, surprise, surprise, they came out before I was born, and I can't even keep up with the comics that are currently coming out.
No, you can't.
My prediction is Cable has been trying to, because he doesn't travel in time, he slips in time, which is very different, and the big difference is it's a lot less accurate.
Right.
Which is why he was a bit late before he slipped away. I've got a feeling we're going to get an episode set in the future, which is like a Groundhog Day type episode where he keeps on trying to get back to
stop the music. Stop the music.
Yeah. In fact, do we have the title list? Is there an episode called Stop the Music?
I don't know.
X-Men 97.
I think you could be right there. The way he arrived, and it was like, you could hear his voice over the music, and this like voice saying, stop the music, and then you find out it's Cable. Go on.
Episode 8 is called Bright Eyes. That'll be that episode. Which means we've got 2 episodes where they are all still going to be dead.
Yeah. Well, the next episode's clearly going to be like the fallout from this.
Yes.
And then the one after is going to be some political, like, no one's coming to help us or protect us.
Well, yeah.
Or something's going to escalate again.
I mean, they are part of the UN now, which means
they should get aid.
The UN should be ready to hunt down the people responsible and deal with them. But we'll see. But yeah.
I can't wait for more. I really can't.
Neither can I. It's peak.
It is, and for only 5 episodes in as well. Like, this is doing so good.
And from mutants to outlaws, we have got Josh back once again with another gaming monthly roundup. Welcome back, Joshua.
Thanks for having me. I love the segue with the old Star Wars Outlaws. That was a good one, that mate. Well done. But yeah, we left off slowly but surely. We left off last month, sort of discussing 22nd of March, which was a big day. We had 3 big games coming out. We had Dragon's Dogma, Rise of the Ronin, and Princess Peach Showtime. Obviously, the first 2 were sort of competing to what was going to do better. And we have the Metacritic scores in. As of today, Dragon's Dogma 2 is sitting on an 85. Rise of the Ronin only on a 76. Princess Peach is on a 74. So Rise of the Ronin has critically stunk up the gaff a little bit. And I'll go into that in a sec. And another notable score, South Park Snow Day, the predecessors for that game actually done quite well. They're sitting at like mid-70s on Metacritic. So everyone's looking forward to this new one, and he's sitting on a 60 at the minute.
Is South Park the Fractured Butthole not like an all-time classic?
Yeah, so that's one of the highest scoring ones. I think that was the second one. Stick of Truth was the first one, I think, unless I've got that the wrong way around.
No, I think, Stick of Truth was the first one.
They're like turn-based sort of story games, but this one, it's just been littered with bugs and stuff, and it's 60. It's currently sitting at.
You truly hate to see it.
You do, yeah. But Rise of the Ronin is a weird one for me because I was really looking forward to it. I think Horror, you mentioned that you was sort of like the look, like the art style.
Yeah,
and stuff like
I've seen stuff about it.
It was like sort of like the samurai type one, and again, it just everyone's saying it felt like a PS3 game, which in this
not ideal. Yeah, this nowadays.
I think the game looked nice, but then certain parts of the map just were so barren and bare that
that is my biggest anger with open world games. I'd much rather have a really small, dense map than just like this unnecessary. It's Ubisoft. Ubisoft are the worst for it. Here is the biggest map ever in a video game. There is nothing in it other than one city.
Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, it's constant.
Yeah.
So that's a shame. 76 isn't horrendous though. It definitely means it's
it's definitely not ideal, but I think it was trying to compete with Dragon's Dogma, which is sitting at an 85, and I think when it first dropped, it was at like 90s. So,
which surprises me.
But it has gone down, and we'll go on to that controversy.
Yeah,
towards the end of the episode. Games yet to release. One that I'm really, really excited for: Tales of Kenzera. I don't know if either of you. It was on like an Xbox showcase last year, I want to say maybe. It's a 2D action platformer similar to Prince of Persia, which came out earlier this year. Great art style, color schemes proper vibrant. It looks really good. It's multi-platform, so you'll both be able to play it. And anyone with a PlayStation, it is coming to PS Extra on day 1. So that is one I 100% recommend checking out. And then one that I reckon both of you have seen, Stellar Blade will be dropping on April 26th, PS5 only.
All I've seen from this is the Twitter echo chamber of people going, pretty lady. It took me a solid 3 days before I realized what game it was that these screenshots were coming from. So yeah, I have seen it, but I know very little about it.
So it was announced a few years ago now. Blimey, I remember watching the showcase. It was called Project Eve at the time. It's like an action hack and slash. It looks really good. PS5 only. Hori, I'm sorry, you unfortunately won't be able to play.
It's fine. PC Master Race.
But like you say, Gon, it is very. I don't know what the. Yeah, essentially, yeah. The main character is
provocative.
A very aesthetically pleasing.
It's provocative. It gets people going.
And yeah, it's drawing a lot of attention at the minute simply because of that reason, which isn't the most ideal, but I suppose publicity.
Yeah, but you've had games like Bayonetta and stuff that have done the same thing. So
yeah,
and they were great games. So
yeah,
well, this is going to do review really well critically, I'd imagine. So
anything that's just on PS5 tends to do well critically. Rightly or wrongly, a number of high-profile critics have a bit of a soft spot for PS5 exclusives.
You're saying there's biasism?
Yes, there's massive bias. And as a result, I think they always end up between like 5 to 10 points higher than they should be as a general rule of thumb.
Yeah, it's pretty fair.
Well, and also PlayStation boys on top.
And it also makes it easier to eliminate bugs when you're only working on one platform, which means as a general rule, there should be less bugs to cause problems.
Don't jinx it, mate.
In 2024?
Spider-Man 2.
But yeah, so we'll have to see how they get on. I'm hoping Tales of Kenzera reviews really well. I'm sure it will.
Yeah.
Sure it will. Announcements. We've had some big ones, specifically for you two boys in your areas of expertise. So I'm going to let you lead this one off. We started off with a announcement of Marvel Rivals.
Yeah, so we discussed this the week it came out very briefly. Although it was supposed to be brief, it wasn't that brief.
We got into it
because we knew we'd kind of save a bit here. But our kind of takeaway from it was, it looks fun and exciting. It's a style of video game that has worked and can still work. But Hori said it best, I think, with it definitely lives and dies by its content rollout and execution.
Yeah, and even more so, it's balancing. Like, it can have slow content, but if they completely mess up balancing or aren't quick with it, those sorts of games just, the player base falls off quickly. We've seen it before. I mean, we've seen it with Overwatch. Like, Overwatch 2 as well. Everyone fell off quickly.
What I will say is IP characters to the level of Marvel have a much better ability to hold player interest. Especially when they're not launching with hundreds of Marvel heroes. They're launching with 12 in the alpha, 18 full launch. There's like no real like tier 1 fan favorite X-Men in that first launch. We're not getting Wolverine. I don't think Cyclops is in the initial launch. Gambit's not in the initial launch. Like, there's a lot of really fun characters. Yeah, there's a lot of really fun characters just from the X-Men, forgetting everywhere else you can get characters from, who, if they've released a good patch that's made stuff more balanced, they can just use a new character to bring loads of people back.
Well, yeah, I imagine they'll do sort of what happens with most of these games, is they get the base balance right. They bring in a new character who's broken for 2 weeks and then gets nerfed down and repeat the process, and that keeps players coming. I will say, while I'm tentative on if this succeeds, out of all the recent Marvel franchise games, this is the first one that I'm actually like, that actually looks like it would be fun to play and actually has intrigued me enough, and has, I think, the best potential to succeed and have longevity compared to some of the other ones we've had.
All I'm saying is, although I don't know how it would work with like the big corporate powerhouses involved, a main stage in London where you've got some pimply 15-year-old who's maining Captain America to win the World Series would just be fucking hilarious. Could you imagine as well, like with a crossover and pay? Imagine you get RDJ to come down and present the first ever world trophy for something like this. That'd be crazy.
Do you just call the league the Secret Wars?
Oh, League? I don't disagree.
You could have so much fun with it, and
you could.
The natural content machine that is Marvel allows for there to always be fun events going on, tying in with new comics, new TV shows, new films, whatever the fuck you want. Really interesting, and I hope they don't fluff it.
I think, like you say, it's such a big IP. It's got so much potential. It's just whether
they can
capitalize on it. Obviously,
absolutely.
Marvel's Avengers on PS4, absolutely arse. didn't review well. It's got a cult fan base, but as a Marvel property, you got to be more than that. You can't.
I bought the premium edition of that. I've never been more disappointed in a purchase in my entire life. I was heartbroken at how horrific that game was. You can't even buy it anymore.
So it just shows, just because it's Marvel doesn't mean it's going to be.
Yeah,
good.
no, that's
Exactly.
the thing.
That was Marvel and Square Enix as well at the top, and that was before like Square Enix have tapered off a little bit now. But at that time, they were still like a powerhouse. That game was actually the beginning of their downfall.
You really hated it, but this one we are looking forward to. I believe the alpha's in May. Con, you've already signed up, haven't you? I still haven't got around to it.
I have already signed up.
I think I did. I don't know.
And they have confirmed that the actual game will be free to play.
Yes.
Well, the screenshot they showed a season pass tab. So I imagine, just like all current games, it'll be free to play with season pass and probably cosmetics.
Which I think is the best way to do it. As long as it's not pay to win and it is purely cosmetic, I don't have a problem with it.
And they can have a lot of fun with the cosmetics.
Especially in a free-to-play game. Yep. I have issue with like £10 battle passes every 2 months in a game that's £70 base. Call of Duty!
Or things like single-player games that monetize every single part of it.
We'll be going on to that one.
But yeah, in a free-to-play game, I mean, me and Hori have discussed this, Paul, when we've been playing games. When you get a free-to-play game, once I've put like 20 hours into it, I'm like, fuck it, I'll pay £10 for a battle pass, because guess what? I've not paid a penny so far, and in my head, a game costs £60. So
I mean, it's good logic. I mean, we're all suckers for it on games that we play together. So
we are dreadful for it. The other one that I know we've all been very excited about for a long time, that we finally got a trailer for, Star Wars Outlaws. Talk to me about it, Josh.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm very much looking forward to it. Releasing. So what day is it today? Thursday. I believe the trailer dropped on Tuesday. We got a 1.5-minute trailer.
Yeah.
My only concern is Ubisoft. The game's coming out 30th of August, which I believe has already been pushed back because it was supposed to come out earlier this year, I want to say. I'm optimistic. Knowing it's Ubisoft is the only thing that puts me off. I love a Star Wars game. I've platinumed the last 2 Jedi games. Obviously, this one's slightly different. This is more open world than those. What are your thoughts as the Star Wars geniuses?
I was very excited when they announced a Star Wars open world sort of game, and then it was Ubisoft, and that excitement went away. And then they showed the trailer, and I was like, "This is cool." And then I saw the pre-order prices, and my excitement went away again.
One of my favorite games of all time is the original Watch Dogs on Xbox 360. And just because of that game, I always give Ubisoft a little bit more leash than they probably deserve. Because in the back of my head, I'm always like, what if they do it again, though? What if they cook? Star Wars is always a fun universe to get to play around in. It's fun that we get not one where they're trying to worry so much about, how do we get the Force to play in this game? And how do we make lightsaber mechanics work? And they get to just have us have a little bit of fun in the Star Wars universe without having to worry about that stuff as much. I'm gonna buy it. I'm just am. I'm gonna hate myself for it if it ends up not being that good, but I'm gonna spend the 60 quid on it, 70 quid on it, whichever one I end up buying. I'll probably cave and buy the middle tier one that gives you 3 days early access.
That's a 95 quid.
Is that 195 quid? Okay,
Yeah.
maybe not.
We'll
see how the mortgage is doing.
I will not be there. Plus the day one patch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, I love Star Wars, and it's potentially could be a lot of fun, but I've been burnt too many times by Ubisoft that to pay 60 quid for a base game, or like I say, paying £95 to get 3 days early access and the season pass. Also, why there's a season pass is questionable when it's meant to be like a single player game. It's just, I don't agree with this idea that the prices of games now should be getting up to like 95 quid.
They've stopped creeping up and now they're running up. And it's only going to get worse, because here's the thing. I personally have no problem paying £100 for GTA 6.
Same.
But that's GTA 6 unless you're releasing a game that I want as much as GTA 6, lower your fucking price.
And
The
his
only potential good thing is, by prices creeping up so high, more people are going to try indie games and smaller games that are £10, £12, normally mean games, but you'll find the odd gem, and I think it could cause a great power shift in the gaming
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to
ecosphere.
say. Like, in this day and age where we've played recently several games under 40 quid, some even like are only 18 or whatever, and they've been way more fun than anything AAA studios have been putting out. It's like, well, why would I go spend 60 quid for a game that might not be
Yeah.
great?
I think the difference is obviously some of the games we enjoy, they're fun because of what they are, the type of game they are. When you get in
Yeah.
a AAA, I think with how strong the tech is getting and the increase in fidelity and everything like that, I just think it is understandable that they're having to raise the price to. Obviously, they've got to put money in to make such a good product. Obviously, we don't want that as a consumer, but it's something they might have to do. I agree, 95 for just a pre-order is taking the piss a little bit. I think that should definitely, all games at the current moment should be 60, 70. I certainly wouldn't pay any more than that myself personally, but
At the end of the day, I would rather game development follow the kind of the law of memory, if you will. Hard drives, they were difficult to make. They didn't hold that much. So when there was a big one, it was quite expensive. Then they found a way to make it smaller, faster, more efficient, and they could make it cheaper. So the price of that comes down, and then they release the next upgrade version. That's how it worked with game development. 360 games were like 30, 40 quid. Xbox One, PS4 games got up to 50 quid. This generation is up at 60. I don't mind generational little increments, but now inside the same generation, we've seen AAA games go from 65 to
I remember
pushing
when
80.
Xbox was like 40 quid.
Yeah.
Xbox games, and now it's like double that, and it's like,
and it's just creeping up too fast. It's gone from being that thing that basically anyone can do, on a small budget as a hobby, to being as just an expensive a hobby as a lot of other things that are seen as expensive hobbies, which is not good for the community in general.
yeah, very well put, mate. I don't disagree. It's one of those sticky ones, I think, and I personally think we're just gonna keep seeing the rise of.
Josh really
price
just
of
hit us
games
with
and stuff,
it's
but
a sticky one still.
it fully is a sticky one still, and I think
if
time's gonna
anything,
play out, and we're
I
gonna see how it
think
goes.
we're just gonna see a rise of indie studios. Like indie
Absolutely.
studios are
I'm not against
producing
that at all.
better games and for half the price and having huge success. There's going to be more devs that go, oh, I could leave this Ubisoft studio with 5 others, go make an indie game, and we make like 6 times our income. So
You're going to see a lot more people trying to make Celeste rather than the next Call of Duty. And that's not a bad thing. Yeah, that's
Absolutely
not a bad thing
not.
at all.
Absolutely not. All right. Speaking of space, what have we been playing recently? I have been playing Dead Space. I played it originally
God,
on
that's
the
old.
Xbox 360. Yeah, exactly. I've got the remastered version.
Oh, okay.
It's been on my backlog. I'm trying to get through my backlog rather than playing new games because overall it's quite quiet at the minute in terms of video game release. So I'm working through the backlog. Dead Space was on offer on PlayStation, so I'm 5-6 hours into that at the minute. I know it's quite a long one. But what have you two boys been playing?
What have I been playing? I've been back on Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League. Season 1 of that dropped. So I thought I'll make a video on that. I'll play as the Joker. That would be cool. 8 hours of grinding later, I unlocked the Joker.
Nice.
That's tough. Sam.
That seems like good content.
But actually, what I will say is they balanced a lot of the things that were annoying me.
Okay.
They've made they've added new mission types, and it's always a bugbear, but there's only so much you can do with missions in this kind of thing. But they've added them, they've tweaked them, they've added more like mutators. When you go through the mastery, you repeat the missions at higher difficulties again and again and again. But they've added different mutations and called them mutations. And now when there's a negative buff against you, there's also like a counterpoint. So for instance, if they become immune to fire, they might take 1.5 times more damage to a different thing instead as like a counter. Overall, I'm actually enjoying the game a lot more now. I find it a lot more fun to play now that season 1 is out.
There's
I've like
more content.
Yeah, I've doubled my play count in the last couple of weeks, and I'm not done yet because I feel like I've actually got something to grind for now, which is really fun. Other than that, we've been back on Valorant. We keep on thinking
Have
it's a
we?
good idea. It's not.
We've tried to be back on Valorant.
I think we're all just washed now. We just can't play anymore.
Well, it's one of those.
It's not helpful when we can't get through one game without someone
And
disconnecting.
we play once a
or-
week, and it's now in a proper session once a week. We don't grind it like we used to, so I don't
No.
think that helps.
It's not the 3 nights, 3 maybe 4 hours a
Oh, I
night
used
that
to
we
play
were
like
playing when
every
we were at our
night.
best.
Yeah, we used to love it.
We've also been playing content warning though, which has been a ton of fun.
Which a lot of
Again,
people have been playing. Another
when
indie
we-
dev success.
Yeah, absolutely class game.
I
actually feel like a bit of a scam artist because we went on and got it for free.
We
'cause I
got it for
had to
free,
pay that
yeah.
£8 that it would have been.
It hadn't clicked with me, but it's because it's Landfall Studios is the indie studio. I remember, I think it was last year. They do this every April Fools. They come up with a funny game idea.
They made Cluster Truck.
They made
I don't know if
tabs, didn't they? They made tabs last year.
They made the drifting
totally
horse.
Cluster Truck. I play Cluster Truck all the time on my Xbox.
So
it was on Game Pass.
they made the one which was like the Knights on a drifting horse, which I remember seeing, and they come up with like an idea and make it in like a couple of months for April Fools, and they usually pop off for a bit, and then it's just this time it's like really popped off. I think because everyone's paying more attention to indie devs, but yeah, we've all been playing that. That's been a lot of fun.
No, I'm looking at some of their other games on Steam right now. We should go through and find the other multiplayer ones. They're like £2 a pop, most of them. We should just fuck around.
They are
and
a
see what
great
Landfall's
studio.
looking.
I'm
Yeah.
totally down.
I know Tabs is fun. I've played that for on Game Pass. That's fun.
Other than this, I've been playing. I've got into racing sims a little bit since playing Forza.
You're still on that.
So yeah, Forza kind of re-unlocked my enjoyment of racing games, and then I was like, you know what? But I used to only play Forza obviously on console, limited options. They're all kind of arcadey races. So I picked up Assetto Corsa, ACC, of which they've now announced the next one's coming out later this year. Which I'm like, but to be fair, a lot of people have been like, yeah, but it'll take about 6 months for them to bring out tracks and everything. But I'm on the controller.
Caved and got a steering wheel?
Not yet. Steering wheels are expensive, even like starter ones.
Yeah.
You're talking like 200 quid, and I'm
are they?
like, oh, I looked into like proper Sims wheels, and I was like, okay, yeah, that's not happening anytime soon.
If you ever see me getting a racing sim, just know I never need to worry about money ever again because that's the only way I'm spending money on that.
If you see me getting a racing sim, check that I'm eating, because it's a bit like consider
disheveled horizontal in an empty room of a racing sim.
Everything, yeah, sold everything. But like playing on controller is hard, but it is a lot. It is very satisfying that I'm slow. Like I can tell that I'm getting better. But yeah, just trying to do races on controller. Because as someone who hasn't really used a controller for like intensively for like many years, doing like a 40-minute race, my hand aches afterwards. It's not good. But it's a lot of fun.
Oh. Is there any microtransactions in that, Horror?
No. Well, they do DLC, which is like more cars or more tracks. Like they brought out the Nürburgring literally this last week, so I bought that for like 10 quid.
So £10 for a track?
It's, to be fair.
My brother in Christ. That's an entire Fortnite battle pass.
Yeah, and I get way more enjoyment out of a Nürburgring track than I would a battle pass. Those battle passes are padded with just rubbish.
But should they be in single player games? This is a question Josh has posed to us.
This is. I'm okay with cosmetic microtransactions in like a single player game. Like I get that. As long as there is also ones you can unlock, because I do miss when games had like the original Halo, like Halo 3, there was all the different armor sets you could unlock just by doing certain things and like completing on legendary and different things. If it's got some of that, but then it's like, oh yeah, this really like this cool looking, like very themed set is a purchasable thing, I'm fine with. When you start taking every mechanic of the game and monetizing it, this is a slippery slope that we shouldn't be heading down.
So I have a very I think it's a controversial take on this.
Mm.
If you design a game a certain way with mechanics in mind, and you decide when the player is realistically going to be able to unlock them mechanics and how much grinding is needed, whatever, I don't mind you also charging to just get to that part of the games quicker in a single player game. As long as you don't make the grinding more difficult to try and bait the player into buying it. So if they go, oh, you can unlock this teleportation system once you get to level 10, that should take you about 5 hours. But you can just spend £1 up front and just have it from whenever you want it. I have no issue with that. But if when they make the decision to charge £1 for the system, they then tweak it slightly so the grinding now takes 10 hours instead of 5, that's when it will annoy me.
That's
At the end of the
totally
day,
valid.
it's a single player game. It's not going to fuck over anyone on my server or anything. If I want to spend 200 quid on a game that I'm fucking love and just go into just playing and playing because I don't like grinding. Fortunately, I do like grinding, so that's not a problem. But I don't care. Just don't make the game experience worse to try and get me to buy your microtransactions.
I think that's a very good way of putting it. And the reason I proposed this question, obviously, there's been a lot of drama recently with, and it's one of the reasons why the scoring for Dragon's Dogma 2 has dropped. I'm going to quote from Harvey Randall at PC Gamer. He proposed his headline: "The Dragon's Dogma 2 microtransactions are real and bafflingly silly, since nearly all of them can be found in the game without too much trouble." Closed quote. And so basically, I don't know if you guys saw, they gave you the ability to buy certain things in the game that help you progress, whether it be fast travel points and stuff like that. They later explained, after all the drama, that everything you can buy is what came with the pre-order edition. So everything, if you didn't pre-order it and you missed out on that content, everything you can buy separately is part of the pre-order. Everything you can buy is fully optional. You can get it all in the game eventually. It's like Con saying, if you want it early, you can get it if you want. So I don't think it's as bad as people are making out, and people are going to hate this, but I think people are going to definitely hate this. I've seen lots of reviews on TikTok. Just because it's there doesn't mean you have to buy it. Loads of people are kicking up a fuss, and they wouldn't have bought it regardless. So just because you don't want to buy it doesn't mean someone else won't get the enjoyment out of buying it.
So
it is a sticky one.
When this drama kicked off, I was like, oh, that's really shitty of Dragon's Dogma, because we were just getting like little bits of it because people hadn't got far enough through the game. I was like, wait, you create your character and then you can never edit it again unless you want to pay for a new character? That's shit. Oh, you can only fast travel if you pay for it? That's shit. And then people got further in the game. It's like, oh no, once you get to this village, you can unlock it. I'm like, okay, so who cares then?
Yeah, there was a lot of jumping the gun with this one.
Yeah, once they were like, oh no, you can unlock everything, and we decided what we were selling as an early access once the game was done, I literally didn't care. Yeah, it's silly microtransactions. Why would you want to spend the £3 or whatever it is to unlock fast travel earlier? Just wait until you get there in the game. But some people might want to. You never know. There might be someone who's like a single dad of 4 kids or whatever who loves the Dragon Dogma games, and he's like, fuck it, I have enough money that I can buy these things and just play the game without having to wait
I don't
to
have the
unlock
time to sit there and grind the whole game.
And that's okay. As long as the people who don't want to spend that extra money can get them easily enough anyway.
Yep. I agree that if it's there doesn't mean you have to buy it. I will say
Back in my day.
Dogmas. No, I would say with Dragon Dogmas 2, their thing with like, yeah, it definitely got blown out of proportion of what actually was going on. What annoys me more with Dragon's Dogma 2 in particular is there's like, yeah, you can earn all these things in game. There's weird things though that like changing your character and stuff. The thing that baffles me is you can't restart your game. Like there is no way to restart a save or make a second save. And in those sorts of games,
it only supports one save.
yeah, and you can't restart it. And they're having to add that in a future patch because everyone's kicked up a fuss about it.
Okay, so it's not like they're like selling save slots.
No, but like,
okay, well, then
no, but what? No,
design.
but yeah, but that's the thing though. They've like prioritized all these weird extra microtransaction ways to do things, but then have like poor game design elsewhere, which like, I'm like, you've got your head focused on the wrong thing.
Yeah,
my issue with all this
a big oversight
is it's not necessarily how Dragon Dogma 2's done it. I just think this is a very slippery slope that will lead to, and if people feel like, oh, this is okay and allow it and don't question it, more studios go, oh, we can do it. And before you know it, games like, I don't know, Spider-Man, where there's different characters, oh, you've got to pay to play that character in the campaign. You got to pay, like, before you know it, certain content will be behind a paywall because studios think they can just get away with it. And I think, I don't like this precedent that it's going to set. And while I don't think Dragon Dogma 2's done it in a bad, like they've gone to, they're not doing it in a bad way because obviously, like you say, you can earn everything, but I don't think it should be there full stop because it's going to start a slippery slope.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think if it hinders game progression, it shouldn't be allowed. If it's cosmetic, like Ubisoft have been doing it for years in the Assassin's Creed games, you can pay for cosmetics and different armor and different stuff, but it is simply cosmetic. It's got no in-game buffs. Like Spider-Man, for example, I can imagine. So, Hori, I don't know if you've played the Spider-Man games. You earn all the suits by fighting crimes and using tokens to unlock them. I can imagine if Insomniac dropped, obviously there is paid DLC, but if they dropped different spider suits that you could buy with money, I reckon a lot of people would buy them as long as they're cosmetic only. And then people will kick off about that, but it's the same again. Just because it's there doesn't mean you need to buy it. It annoyed me because I know for a fact a lot of people kicking up wouldn't have bought it anyway, and they're just moaning because it's.
I think the thing as well on this is like, you'll also, like going back to Star Wars Outlaws, you're gonna have a studio charges us £95 for a game, and then you get in the game and you're like, oh, I can't play like 10% of the content because it's behind a paywall. And we know studios well enough will do this. So
I do get the concern. It's completely valid. Just to raise a counterpoint, Josh, how much money have you spent on FIFA points this year?
None.
No.
Bad choice.
I swear on my life. I haven't spent any. I have friends that have spent a lot of money. I have an end. See, this example actually counters the point I think you was going to try and make. I have got an end game team in April without spending any FIFA points. I've got friends who obviously have like the best teams possible, and they've spent hundreds. But it's the same again. Just because they're there doesn't mean you need to buy them.
My point is more, I have less issue with just silly microtransactions to save time in a single player game, as long as you can still get them naturally, of course, versus the loot box point system that we've got in so many other games, which is essentially gambling. If we're gonna pick a microtransaction style to fight here, and realistically you can only fight one at a time, we need to go after the loot box style mechanics first and get that dealt with, and then we can start looking at what else needs to be addressed.
Yeah, loot box is such a controversial one. Obviously, Belgium has you can't buy FIFA points in Belgium on Ultimate Team. You physically can't buy it, and I'm not sure how many other countries do it. So obviously they've taken a step in the right direction. It's just a controversial one because it's just where they get all their money. And at the end of the day, these companies are putting microtransactions in the game to help fund future projects, to help get the money back from making that game. So It's just
EA need the average FIFA player to spend 70 quid on the game and another 50 quid on FIFA points over the course of the year to sustain their financial model. They are a poorly run business.
The thing is, they don't actually
No, of course they
bargain on
don't.
the average, but they bargain on like a small percentage of whales spending
Yeah.
ridiculous amounts of money. It's how
And if
Riot's
they
done
need
it
to
with
bank on,
cosmetics.
and if they need to bank on that, they're a poorly run company. If they get that and they're like, oh, that's fucking great, cool, but them banking on that is what my issue is with.
Yeah, it's just such a controversial one. I think moving forward,
Yeah.
we are going to see it more, like Corey says. Hopefully, they just balance it in a way where it won't be progression behind paywalls. Cosmetics, I'm very much fine with. I just don't want it to be progression behind a paywall.
Yeah, I'd see a world where you're going to get some studio chops up their whole game into microtransactions, and it'll probably then flop, and hopefully that sets a precedent, but they're definitely going to try it. So,
Thank you as always, Josh. We
Thanks
will
very much for having me. I'm looking forward to next month.
We'll catch you next month with some more gaming news.
Sounds good. Cheers, guys.
And now that Josh has left us with the gaming news, we are on to the nerd news network.
Yes.
We've got a fair bit to get through here.
We have
no tiny bits of news here. This is all pretty sizable. Pretty
yeah.
Got a bit of bite to it. So we got the Joker A Folie à Deux trailer.
We did.
Did you watch it?
I have.
I have some thoughts.
Okay.
I'm going to try and stay
Hit
positive.
me with them.
I fucking love the trailer. I think the film looks really, really good.
Agreed.
Unfortunately, my Twitter, which has so long been in the comic book space and the comic book medium space, has accidentally slipped into Film Bro Twitter a bit too much. So I just had a bunch of people quote retweeting people's excited tweets about the trailer going, you can watch actual films. I promise you'll like them too. And to them,
yeah,
I only
really
have one thing to say. Yeah. And it had me rewatching the trailer, doubting my own opinion. And you know me, like, I have a lot of faults. One of them is when I form my opinion, I'm pretty, like, not, like, unmovable on it, because that's not how you grow as a person. But I trust my own opinion. And I rewatched it. I'm like, am I missing something here? This looks good. But there has been some kind of changing of history over the last 4 years, because apparently Joker has gone from being one of the best R-rated films ever to being a steaming pile of garbage. Because I remember Film Bro Twitter fucking loved Joker.
Oh, well, Film Bros flip-flop all over the place.
But I was just sat there and I literally rewatched it like 2 times. I'm like, I'm missing something here. Lady Gaga looks phenomenal in the role. Joaquin Phoenix is an incredibly talented actor. This film looks lit.
It does. And do you know what's funny? Like, my Twitter was the complete opposite. It was people, I saw like at least 2 people tweet this of like shots from the final moment when he's in the prison glass thing and she draws the face, and it's like the camera action to line the smile up, and then he comes in focus and he smiles. It's just people going, okay, cinema's back. This is cinema doing shit like this. And it's like,
that's the funny thing.
People are excited.
I saw a lot of them tweets, but then what I was getting people quote retweeting that, going, you can watch actual cinema.
Oh, then people are
I'm
just
like,
dumb.
what do you mean? What do you want art to be? Where art has
Zack
to
Snyder.
fit into a little box? It's like, you want art to fit in this little box so you can be a pretentious arsehole about it. But art inherently doesn't fit in a little box. I don't get what they want. Yes, I get comic books.
Don't try and get what they want.
Yeah. I get the
it's a better life.
Movies. I get these comic book movies have become like $1 billion industry, multi-billion-dollar industry. So inherently, you get a little bit worried about it becoming quite corporate and soulless.
Yeah.
But there is actually, at its raw form, nothing more pure art and storytelling than comic books. I will die on that fucking hill. And taking it and doing an artistic interpretation of it, which the Joker first Joker and this one looks like it's doing their artistic take on it better than a lot of other superhero films do. This film should appeal to a really wide audience.
Do you know what's funny? I was watching the trailer and I was like, right, so when are they going to break out into song? Because obviously we got like this build up of it. It's going to be a big musical and there's all these songs. And then I actually think it's not, I feel like they let people go a bit crazy with their theories on that on purpose. And it's not actually going to be as wild as we're building ourselves up to expect.
I think there's a lot of music used, but I don't think they sing at any point.
Yeah, I don't think it's like sudden break out into song in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
Singing about getting bread.
Yeah, it's a lot more they hear the music in their head as like a backing track to what they're doing.
Well, yeah, I imagine it would be like Joker's crazy, so he starts essentially hearing music to what he's doing. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by the trailer. I thought it looked really good. And like you say, everyone looks great in their roles. The little like theme things of like Arkham Hotel and like how they like thematically doing Gotham in this world, I think is really well done.
I know Lady Gaga is a phenomenal singer, a phenomenal songwriter, a phenomenal performer. I don't know what she knows about cameras. I know she did a phenomenal job in A Star Is Born, the film she did with Bradley Cooper. And she's done some other bits where she was very successful. I believe one was there was one of the film about the fashion world. I forget what it was called. Had like Adam Driver and stuff in it. It was massive. It might have been a Gucci film or something.
Maybe.
It was a drama. Apparently she was amazing in that. There might be real conversation that she is one of the most talented human beings that have existed during our lifetime. With some of the songwriting she's done, some of the singing she's done, the production she's done, and her filmography that she's putting together, as well as her having solid performances in a number of different like acting styles. It's not like she's playing the same character over and over again. If she is really, really good as Harley, she might be like...
Oh yeah, the range of what her like creative ability.
Taylor Swift could never.
Do you know what would be wild is if we get Poker Face as a song in this film?
Do you know what though? I think it probably could work in a really good way.
Well, no, yeah, it could like be funny to the audience because we're like, haha, they're using her own song when it's not her. But also, yeah, there's probably a way that it could actually really work in the film.
The creators behind the
saw
Batman
this.
Beyond animated project, that also worked on the Spider-Verse films. That obviously they're trying to get support behind to get it off the ground. They're getting meetings with DC and stuff.
They shared some pictures a little while back. They got everyone very excited.
So they released some test footage to their YouTube. I need it, man.
They're taking a page out of Ryan Reynolds' book.
It looks so. Obviously, there's no voice acting because they don't have the budget to hire or cast a voice actor, and at that point, it become a real film. At which point, DC could sue them. But the animation and like the bits of sound design they did to give it some atmosphere. Oh, Horry, I need it. I need it.
Honestly,
since we started this podcast, I've been give me Batman Beyond. I want some Batman Beyond in my life. This is it.
There's like something so good about that studio style that they've dialed in with Spider-Verse that just works so well with this. Absolutely. And it's like getting to see it, like, don't get me wrong, the stills we saw had us hyped already, and we're both would love this project to actually be a thing. And the fact that those alone got Warner Brothers to go from a hard no to a maybe, I would be shocked of the fan reception to this that Warner Brothers don't now go to a okay, write us a script or like come up with an actual pitch for this and we will listen. It's not a yes yet, but like, okay, you have test footage, the fans want it, we know you did Spider-Verse and you've got a proven track record there. Like, okay, maybe we'll listen now. because that little just flight sequence of him taking off and it showing off like how they would show off some of his gadgetry and his suit and like just the way of movement and everything in the animation, it looked so good.
I'd like it a lot.
I would as well.
Do you reckon I can learn an American accent and get them to cast me as Ted McGinn? Maybe. Who knows? The Fallout show. We've been discussing it recently over the trailers and stuff.
We have.
They did the thing we hate. They dropped it all in one go.
Well, I don't mind, but
I dislike. You know my feelings about binge content. I
but
think it's
we
bad
both
for the
have
world.
different schedules that
Yes.
I have time for binge watching.
I like binging stuff, but I think it's bad for.
No, yeah,
the
I get you.
But it's here. We're gonna watch it all for next week's episode, so we'll give a review of the entire season next week.
Unfortunately, we couldn't watch all 8 episodes in like 2 hours.
Since like midnight last night, yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently it's good though.
Yeah, I've heard good things so far.
I've seen some good reviews from places like Discussing Film and IGN. I know IGN aren't really trustworthy, but it's always interesting to see what they've got to say.
Yeah,
see what Rotten Tomatoes has got it at so far.
From like what I've seen on Twitter of some people that have started to watch it, everyone seems to be speaking positively. So
Fallout.
I'm taking that as it's not a flop. So hopefully that means it's more on like Last of Us.
The critic review, on 67 critic reviews, it's currently on 93%. And on 100+ audience scores, it's currently at 85%. That's pretty good.
Okay.
The critics' consensus is an adaptation that feels like a true extension of the games. Fallout is a post-apocalyptic blast for newcomers and longtime fans alike. Well, there we go then. There we go. So, I mean, we like the look of it. There was a couple of bits we were concerned about, as is very natural with video game adaptations, because although they're getting better, there's still a lot of room to mess it up. But the consensus so far is good. So, I mean, we'll see. If it's really easy for us to binge it, it probably means it's good.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully, if there is any of the issues that we were worried about with it being like too heavy on game references or something, hopefully if there is any of that stuff, it's not as big of an issue as we worried. So then it kind of balances out a lot, and it actually does feel like a good show.
Exactly. So.
Another
show.
This
is an interesting one. This is a really interesting one. Hollywood Reporter have claimed that a live-action, R-rated Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin movie is in the works.
Something that was talked about a while back, I feel, but it got shelved.
Yes, we're also getting a game, which is The Last Ronin. My only concern is if these come out at the same time and they've done slightly different versions of the story, or the exact same version, it could feel like, why is everything Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles all of a sudden so dark and sad?
I get what you mean.
But conceptually, this sounds fun.
Yeah, no, it does. I think I'd prefer if it was animated. There's something about, while the more modern live action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle stuff wasn't terrible, it still has this like kind of weird, uncanny thing with it being live action. Like I just imagine it was like the animated one style of what the recent movie.
Yeah, but I feel like the animated style of the recent movie wouldn't convey the seriousness quite as well.
I don't know. I reckon you can.
But yeah, it's definitely gonna be interesting to see how that develops. The really interesting thing is the fact that this story's got so popular recently.
Yeah.
I'd been aware of it, but I'd never viewed it as like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle story. But now it seems like a lot of people want to adapt it.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because we've had a rise like in the last 5 years where people are like, oh, we enjoy these like darker, gritty, R-rated stories, and like, oh well, this generation grew up with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, so look what we have for you. But
yeah,
could
it's
be cool.
not wrong. I mean, if it comes out, I'll see it. But
Yeah.
obviously, it being in the works doesn't mean we'll ever actually get released.
No, it doesn't.
Deadline has reported that mid-2000s show Heroes is apparently getting a sequel series. Did you ever watch this, Horror?
I'm trying to remember. Okay, so like I could visualize the title like logo.
Yeah.
I think I saw bits of it, but I never properly watched it.
Okay, so Hero Season 1 is a masterpiece.
Right.
After that, you're watching Chasing the High of Season 1. It's not bad, but it's not great.
Okay.
But the universe they built for it was very, very good. The problem was they got a bit into time travel and stuff, and it
got messy. Yeah.
Yeah. Back in the mid-2000s, writers really, really struggled with how to do time travel. I know it's not much better today, but I feel like that if they know they can't write it, they stay well away, and if they feel confident enough, they do an okay job.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
I wouldn't be against this. I really liked it. They did such an interest. The superpowers were really niche and a bit weird.
Yeah, that's what I remember
cool.
about it.
So I forget the actor's name. He became a superstar. He played Spock in the Star Trek remake.
Oh. I can picture who it is. I can't remember.
I've just typed Star Trek cast expected to get who I'm thinking of. 2009 cast. Zachary Quinto? Yeah, Zachary Quinto. So he played the bad guy in it. And his superpower was when he saw something, he understood how it worked.
Pretty
and
cool.
In the rules of the writing, what that allowed him to do was he essentially became a serial killer. And he would kill someone with powers, dissect their brain, understand how their brain worked, and as a result of that, he would get their superpower.
That's wild.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Which is such a weird way to do a power-stealing storyline.
Yeah.
Instead of just giving this man the ability to steal people's power, they're like, no, he opens up their skull, looks at their brain,
does surgery,
and his brain then knows how to do the same thing.
Yeah, that's wild.
So, like, basically, his entire thing is collecting these powers. And you've got another dude, I think it's an artist, who is essentially like a prophet, who keeps on getting caught in a loop of doing art that's essentially save the teenager, save the world.
Got you.
And then you've got an Asian dude who can travel in time, but he has very little control over it. That's where the problems kind of came in. In season 1, it wasn't too messy, but after a while it got messy.
Yeah.
The main dude was a guy who could, similar to Rogue actually, he could borrow people's power.
Right.
But it didn't hurt them, and he didn't really know how it worked for a long time.
Got you.
It turns out he just kind of needs to like touch them, and until he touches someone else with power, he can use their power.
Got you.
And then there was this teenage girl whose power was she was basically invincible, I'm pretty sure. So the whole point was, as long as you save the teenage girl from the killer,
yeah,
he's beatable because he won't be invincible.
Got you. Yeah,
But once he kills her and becomes invincible,
yeah,
we're
you're screwed.
fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really, really good. And if they think they can do a good sequel series, I'd be so down because it was such an interesting take on superheroes.
Yeah, it depends. Like if they choose to wreck on anything or try and like if they can get the writing down that makes sense and is compelling, then yeah, could be good.
More superhero TV show news. The
Mm.
Boys season 4 is 100% finished, according to the showrunner Eric Kripke.
Very
We're there, it's
exciting.
done. It's good. We're good to go.
So ready to watch Homelander sell golden sneakers.
To fund his legal defense.
Mm.
Because that is so ridiculous, it could only happen in a TV show.
Honestly.
It's gonna be good.
I'm very excited and see one, like how Gen V led into it and what they use from that, and then where it kind of leads into the next season of Gen V. All
My
tying this
pessimistic
together.
take,
Go on.
bearing in mind nothing stays good forever, my pessimistic take is this is the last good season of The Boys.
I don't know, because the world keeps giving them great content to use.
It
so.
does. It does.
And I don't think the world's going to stop doing that anytime soon.
I think the cracks are going to start to show a little bit. And then by like the time the next season is done and out, people are going to be
maybe
slightly over this style of content.
I think season 5 could be that's season 5 pushing past that. You do then get into the dangerous territory of every season will get compared to the previous ones, and if you're not staying at least the same level, it all collapses very quickly.
Yeah.
So
this has me hyped as fuck, this next one.
Yes.
Hollywood Reporter confirms that Andor writer Bo Willimon will co-write Dawn of the Jedi movie. He was behind Stellan Skarsgård's iconic speech and the majority of the Narkina 5 arc, which was, of course, the high-security Imperial prison, which happened to be our favourite 2 parts of the fucking show.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm so... Him being part of Dawn of the Jedi it just increases my excitement for that. I was already looking forward to getting a new era of Star Wars as a film, high Jedi time, like the start of the Jedi. That's going to be cool. To have such a solid writer that we know like makes great Star Wars writing. Just, this is going to be an ace. It's going to be an ace.
This is such a I want it yesterday moment. Like, no, I want. Where can I buy the ticket for the cinema? I want to go see this film. Yeah. I mean, I've made no small bean about my feelings about them. Then, like that Stellan Skarsgård speech and the entirety of the prison arc. Like, it's some of my favorite Star Wars. Full stop. If they would have just said a member of the Andor writing team is co-writing Dawn of the Jedi, I still would have been hyped. So I'm like, the writing in Andor was class.
Yeah,
awesome.
Andor was great.
But the fact that they specifically gone, yeah, he did them bits. I'm just like, oh yeah, we gone.
Do you know what I reckon it was? They've seen the amount of people that have like shared that speech, shared the prison break speech, and he's like, okay. You're approved. You're Star Wars approved. You know the fans like what you do. I think you did a great job. Come on, you're on all the projects now. Like you've had Dave's stamp of approval.
Going to what we said about Lady Gaga and her range.
I
want to give Stellan Skarsgård a shout out.
Yeah, I mean,
let's just be clear. Just of the stuff I can think he's done off the top of my head, he's done Star Wars, in which he's phenomenal. He was in Marvel, in which he was very good. In June, he cooks. And he's also in Mamma Mia.
What a lad.
Like, Stellan Skarsgård.
Yeah, I forget he was in Mamma Mia.
He's so good. The dude doesn't miss. He doesn't miss Horry.
He doesn't.
He was in Good Will Hunting. Oh my god.
That family doesn't miss.
He was in Pirates of the Caribbean. He plays Will's dad.
Oh,
I
there you
forgot
go.
about that. Like, what can this guy not do? He might be the GOAT.
No, I have a bit of bonus news that isn't on this because it sort of came out just before we started the recording of this and kind of seen a bit more since. There is, I forget what's going on at the moment. Is it a Paramount thing going on at the moment? CinemaCon
in Las Vegas. It was the Paramount showcase this evening.
Yeah, so a bunch of teasers got shown as they do and don't get shared, so everyone does like descriptive reporting on them. There's one for the Transformers 1.
Yes, so I heard about this.
Which is an animated Transformers film.
Oh, interesting.
And the first trailer reveals Optimus Prime and Megatron's origins as worker friends before learning how to transform, and it's all like animated. So it's like early days Transformers animated. Could be very cool.
We will eagerly await a trailer.
Especially because of how much we've been loving animated content recently. And I've been loving Gundam stuff, so I'm like, animated mechs.
This is a double-edged sword for Transformers, isn't it? Because right now, people have never been more accepting of animated content. Like, the acceptance of it as a legitimate medium has never been higher.
This is true.
But at the same time, the quality is so high that if it's bad, people will just go, the fuck was that?
True.
So, it's high risk, high reward. And with Transformers being a cartoon initially that kind of pivoted, and they're coming back to their initial medium now, you really don't want to fuck it up.
No, but I'd love if they probably won't, but I'd love if they've gone to like more newer Gundam series and stuff of like mech animes. See how they do like fight scenes and how they animate that stuff in the modern day, and use that to like take inspiration for, like you said, going back to animation, which is what they started in. It could be very cool. So I guess we have to wait and see if that little teaser or whatever gets leaked anywhere.
Yeah, it'll probably get released in a couple of weeks or so.
Oh yeah, or released, yeah.
But no, that is very exciting news. And that is all the news we have this week.
Yes.
Thank you as always for hanging out with us. We appreciate it greatly. Thank you to
Yes,
Josh for coming on and giving us a gaming update. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hopefully the button's down below glow. I don't know if we get that on this account, but they should.
That's true. If you haven't already.
So go see if they glowed.
Yeah, hit that like button.
And make sure you subscribe. And we will catch you in a bit.
We'll catch you next week.